How's everyone doing today? So I've been doing these weekly. I try to do these typically every Sunday morning. To me, it's morning. To some of you guys, it's different times of day. But I think they've been really helpful. I hope they've been helpful for you guys in terms of showing you some tricks and tips that maybe I haven't shown you, or maybe haven't been in a video, or they were, but maybe they were tucked down behind something. So is my camera frozen? Really? Already? Did that happen? Hang on. Let me restart this camera really quickly. All right. Try that again. Sometimes I get glitches. It happens to the best of us. I've been getting some gremlins ever since I came back from vacation. Things have been freezing up and I haven't found out what it is. Like, my camera's live here, but something in my connection. Might be time to update some drivers, because some things, I've done a few, but they, I've updated things, but I've been getting this freeze every now and then. I haven't figured out what it is, but I will. So we'll just keep moving here. So I try to do these, weekly, usually every Sunday morning. And I try to take questions and things from you guys about whatever you want to talk about in Filmora, usually, because that's the software I use most days. Hey, Sammy, how you doing, pal? Good to see you, my friend. So if you have questions along the way, I'm going to show you a few things. And if you have questions, I'll try to take them here. I usually don't do huge things. If you're like, show me how to, make a video that makes it look like I'm Spider-Man. It's sometimes these things are better suited for full tutorials, but this is a great place to ask if you've been having some stumbling blocks with certain things, or how to do some simple tricks in your edits, and things have been giving you problems. Am I frozen again? Unbelievable. We're going to have one of those mornings, aren't we? Well, let's do this. Let's pull up Filmora and we'll get going. Can you guys still hear me? That's all that matters. As long as you can hear me, we'll pull up Filmora and we'll get going. Let's see. Here we go. Really? What? Is my audio back? There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's pull up Filmora here. Let's go full screen. This is the important stuff anyway. Looking at me, who cares? Am I that important? Not really. It's all about this. So let's see. Let me just take some questions. Have you tried the? Yes, I'm using 10.5.5 right now. I actually downloaded it today. So this is the latest update that they have available, at least in my region. Sometimes it'll tell you within the software. I think some of you guys know this. Up in the help tab, if you scroll down, you say check for update. It'll check to see if you have an update, and it tells me I have the latest version, but sometimes it'll tell you that and you still don't have the latest version. And if that's the case, then go right to filmora.wondershare.com and just download the software again, and it'll typically give you the latest version available in your region. So just kind of keep that in mind, and that'll help you make sure you've got the latest version. Let me kill the taskbar. I don't want to look at the taskbar, right? Let's just get full screen here. So let me go shrink, and let me go full screen. Let me hide this thing, and there we go. All right, so one of the things I want to show you guys today, yeah, I think there's a bug in it too. I've been having some issues. I did the latest update beanie. I might have to roll back because I've been getting some, ever since I've updated, I've got had some issues. Kavindu, Daniel. We'll just yell each other's names. So this is one thing I want to show you. I get a lot of questions where people will ask me how to do things like, create some kind of custom text elements and stuff, because everyone knows how to add text. And one of the things I think sometimes people forget about is all these sample colors. I think people see these things sometimes and go, what's that? What do I care about a bunch of colors? Because they're just 16 by 9 blocks of color. And they're super important for a couple of different reasons that I want to make sure you guys know about. Hey, Epic Desk, what video of yours shows how to zoom in, stay zoomed in for a couple of seconds, and then zoom back out? Also, good morning. Good morning, Epic Desk. The one that shows you how to do that. Hold on, let me pull up a different window over here, and I'll show you right now. It is the on my channel. I got to change the name of this. One of my mistakes is I left the name of a stupid one up here. And I believe I called it, let me see if I can find it here, Filmora New Features. It was called something like Filmora New Features, and it is right here, New Feature. This Filmora 9 New Features is the one. If you go to this one, it shows you how I do that zoom in. Obviously, I was still sponsored at the time, but this one will show you. So that Filmora New Features. I'll change the name of this because it wasn't a new feature anymore. So I'll change this, but this is the one, Filmora 9 New Features. I'll change that. I appreciate you pointing that out, but that's the one, Epic Desk, and thanks for the, and thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. So these colors here, let me show you something here. Let's take this, let's take a sample color down. You can bring a sample color down into your timeline, right? Let me do full screen here. This is something you can bring down. They just look like blocks of color. Basically, it's a 16 by 9 or whatever the size of your project is. They default to 16 by 9. But you can do a lot with these with the keyframing. Let me show you what I mean. If you double left click on this down in the timeline, in the upper left here, you got images, color, and then animation. If you put your playhead at the beginning and add a keyframe, see that little green keyframe that's right there? Then move your playhead forward. You can then double left click and see in the upper right, it's hard to see, but there's actually a racetrack around this, a dotted line with green dots in the corners and on the sides, top, bottom, left, right, and in the corners, there's these green dots that allow you to change the shape of this thing, right? So you can go like, here, let me pull this up. Let me go like that. Did I just move the whole thing? Hold on. I don't want to move it that much. I actually just want to get the single arrow where I shrink it. Let me do this. Single arrow. Where are you? Let me see if I can get right on the spot. There we go. So single arrow. So watch this. Like here's this. All I did was I changed the shape, right? And I made it more like a line. I shrunk it, squashed it down. Now, if you look down on the timeline, see where this now created another keyframe and there's a green arrow saying, oh, from this keyframe to that keyframe. What I just did was I had put a keyframe at the beginning to tell Filmora, I need this at the beginning to be a full screen block of red. And then when I move forward, watch what happens as I play this, it'll shrink down to the squashed version. So I've just animated a color motion. And I think a lot of you guys know that in Filmora, there's a lot of preset text elements that have colors in them. And people are always like, well, how do I change the color? Or how do I get rid of that? Or how do I get it to move differently? Well, there's a simple way to do that, right? You could take this element. I'm gonna get rid of. Let me get rid of this. I'm gonna delete this keyframe. I'm gonna delete this other keyframe. Let me go and grab a title element. So I'll grab some text. Let me go up to the downloads. Let me find default. I'm gonna just get the default text, default title if I can find it. Maybe they don't call it default anymore. Who knows? There it is. Default title. I'm going to put that on top of my, so now I've just got text and a layer of red underneath it. So let's start here. I'm going to take the text element first. I'm going to change the font first of all, because I don't really like this font. I tend to like Impact. So let me change that to Impact. Oops. If I can type today. Ever have one of those days where nothing works for you? I'm having one of those. Impact. There we go. Change it to Impact. That's one of my favorite fonts. Let me move this down here, okay? So I'm going to start here like a lower third. But here's the cool thing. What you can do is You can add a keyframe. You can keyframe this motion too. Not as much as I would like you to. They haven't really totally got this figured out. But what you can do the animation if you click in the upper left. There's some of the preset motions. I'm going to go to the right is one of my favorite ones. It just pops into the right and then pops back out. So watch this. If I play this, it pops in, it hangs there, and then it pulls that back out at the end. Okay, so that's called to the right. It's a preset animation. Just brings it in from the left to the right and then pulls it back out. Okay, now that's just that. But if I wanted to do something cool to match this, what I could do is, hey, right where that finally lands, I'm going to add a keyframe there, right? I'm going to take this and I'm going to change the shape of this red. Let me do this. Let me go like that and like that. This is a good way to make animated subscribe buttons too, if you wanted to do that. I'm going to do this. So that's saying at this point, this is, I'm telling Filmora, this is what the shape of that red. And it won't change because I didn't have a keyframe before it. But what I can do is I can go back here at the beginning and then add the first keyframe, right? And I'm going to take the red element. I'm going to use the arrow keys on my... Now you could do this with arrow keys. I'm using the arrow key on my keyboard, which is slow, but it keeps it straight. Or you could grab it with your mouse and pull it way over. Let's pull that right out of the scene. Now watch what happens. I've created, let's start from beginning. The text comes in, that comes in. It took forever for the red to get there. So let me I can left click and drag this keyframe. Let's have it move a little quicker. Moved out with it. There we go. And as that starts to go away, let's do this. That starts to move to the right a bit. So let's do this. Let's hold this in place. I'm going to add another keyframe to tell it, stay there. Nothing's moving. And as the text starts to go to the right, I'm going to take this, left click on the, left click on the red. I want to make sure I move it. This is where the arrows come into play. And I'm going to slide that just to the right a bit so that it moves with that. See it move with the text a little bit. And I'm just doing a custom color motion with it. Got a little bit of ahead of it, so let me slow it down a touch. There it moved. And now we want it to stay there for a second. I'm going to add one more keyframe. And then when it gets over to here and the text disappears, I want my red to pull away with it too. So I'm going to grab the red and I'm going to, oop, that's not what I wanted to do. That wasn't the red. I should lock this track so that doesn't happen. And let me just move the red. Let's move the red out of here. And let's take that right off screen. So now it kind of moves with it. And if it moves too quickly, we can change when it does that by just clicking on those keyframes and having it do different things. Let me move the red out a little bit longer here. If we make that go a little bit longer, it'll give me a little more control. So let me pull the red right to about there. A little bit slow. It's just a timing thing. So I'll just play with this till I get the timing right. And it kind of moves out like that. See what I mean? So you can kind of create these controlled sequences here that have things move the way you want them to move. Because I think sometimes people think that the elements can only do the things that they're preset to do. And you can kind of create these custom motions and, you know, you could have things move up, move down, have things move in different directions. But that creates these sort of these custom elements in there, and you can use different colors. And just that ability to use the keyframing can really change the way you do things in your edits. And being able to do things like that, just use keyframing, or the crop and zoom feature is a really cool way to change up certain looks. Let me show you another trick that I've showed before. People ask me this one. They want to have that, like, how do I make it look like I'm just waking up, right? That was one that someone asked me. How do I make it look like I'm waking up? And I said, well, think about what it looks like when you're waking up, right? If someone was just opening their eyes, they would start to see whatever they're looking at. Let's pretend you're, we'll just take a piece of sample footage here, okay? Apparently you woke up on a beach with two guys on bikes. That would look, what would that look like? First of all, how do we get it to look like you're opening your eyes? Well, opening your eyes is, you know, very like squinted down, and your eyelids, one eyelid moves up and one eyelid moves down, right? And your eyes open. So here's a cool trick. Let's go to crop and zoom. Let's go to pan and zoom, and let's make our end screen and our starting screen the exact same size to begin with, okay? So there's end, there's start, so there's no pan and zoom whatsoever. But on the start window, let's let's do this. Let's do a custom. This will allow us to do something outside of 16 by 9. And let's take this, let's just squash down the top and pull up the bottom. Can you see what's happening here? I'm just taking the start window and I'm trying to keep, see where there's a center cross there. See, there's that red plus sign. That lets you know if you're kind of still centered or if you're moving a bit. I try to keep those aligned. That way the center stays true. So let me squash this down. It won't let me go completely squash, but it'll go really close. It'll go this far down. That's pretty close. All right. So let me just make sure that's lined up. So what I did was I did a custom. And this means I set the ratio to custom. And that allowed me not to stay with 16 by 9. So it starts at this very thin view. It's not squashing the footage. It's just squashing the zoom on the footage. Okay. So let's hit OK. And then what this will do is if I go back, you'll see this opens up like someone's opening up their eyelids, right? It didn't squash the footage. It just changed that aspect ratio from squashed to open. Now, another thing we want to think about is, well, it started, I could still see the footage a bit, right? So really simple. Let's think about when you're kind of opening your eyes, life is kind of fuzzy. So let's start by maybe getting a dissolve transition. Bring a dissolve down in and put it at the beginning. And let's dissolve in. And if we dissolve in, that'll give us that fuzzy kind of opening, right? From black to, oh, okay, I'm waking up. And you could even add a little blur onto this if you wanted, but that'll give you, it's kind of that cinematic opening. You've seen like guys like Peter McKinnon and stuff use this kind of cinematic opening like that. So it's like a cinematic black bars, but it can also feel like waking up. It's kind of slow. I'd probably open my eyes quicker than that. So let's split the footage right about there. On the second half, I'm going to go to crop and zoom. I'm going to go back to crop and I'm just going to reset this back to the original crop. So now there's no crop or zoom applied to it. So now what I've done is I took this second half, put it back to normal. So the crop and zoom only applies to a shorter section. So it'll happen faster now because crop and zoom is defined by the length of that footage. See? So watch what happens. Boom, eyes are open. And now it looks like you're watching a couple guys on the beach. Really, really simple trick right there. But a good way to do certain things. Like create that effect. And it works for cinematic stuff too. Hi, Daniel. Thank you for the Super Chat East Coast slots. I appreciate that. Is there any way to save your project shared media organization settings? Every time I close my software, my folders revert back and all my media is jumbled up in the folder. Typically, not if you... usually mine stay in order. What you can do is create a shared folder for certain things that you use over and over again, which is right here. See the shared media? Make sure you put, like, see how I have this here? I've got some different end screens that I use for different things. Anything you put in your shared folder will always show up in your next project because it's shared, and you can create extra shared folders too. Down in here, you know, you can add a folder in right here. This little button right here would add another folder inside of the shared media. So if you want to have separate things like your music, maybe you put your audio tracks in one, and then under the shared folders again, maybe a lot of times you'll use, oops, sorry, let me add another folder in there. Maybe there's ones you always use, certain video clips. So you maybe put video, audio, and it's under your shared media. If you create these shared folders, East Coast slots, it'll help you separate those things and not have them be jumbled. And anything you put in there will open every time you open a new project. So those are things a lot of times I'll put end screens in there, or if I have certain call to action things or subscribe buttons, or, you know, like video clips where it's an auto subscribe button that pops up animated. That's where you do it. Put that there so you can, you'll have access to those next time. Thank you again for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Let me see. What do we got for questions? Let me see. Make Beanie a mod. He feels left out. I know. What's that about? What are we doing here, Beanie? I feel like you've been around too long not to be a mod. Like, what am I? What kind of a one-way street am I? Hold on a second. Let me see if I can do it from in here. There we go. Instant modification. Give that man a wrench. Beanie's been in the community for a long time, and I actually met him in real life too. He's a really great guy. So I'm happy to make him a mod here. He's one of my favorite creators out there. An excellent artist, by the way. And all mod chat, right? Let's put all mods in here. All mod cons, as the jam would say. So let's see. Let me check some of the questions we got. My friend Alton, how you doing, pal? Did you master that whole smoked chicken on the grill yet? I'm working on it. I actually picked up a griddle yesterday, so we've got like a I can't remember who it is. I can't remember the name of it, but I picked up a griddle. We were griddling last night. We did a sous vide steak and then griddled it. Oh man, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Let me check some of the chat questions we have here so I don't miss some of the things you've been asking. There was an earlier question that I want to make sure I caught, and I know I missed it. Feel free to ask questions in the chat, guys. I'm scrolling through it, so I'd like to kind of go back and forth and find ones. How do you improve your performance while video editing? A couple of ways to do that. That's a great question, Leah. If you want to improve the performance while you're editing, there's a couple things you can do. Up under the File tab, if you're in PC, but this also is on a lot of this you can do on Mac as well. If you scroll down to Preferences, and then you come over to this, it starts in General, then you go to the Performance tab. One thing you want to do is make sure you have your GPU acceleration turned on, both of these clicked, and select your graphics card. I'm using an AMD Ryzen 6800 XT, so it'll tell you here. If you have more than one, you can pick a different one. And also make sure, here's a simple thing you can do. The proxy files. Proxy files is when your software, and this isn't just Filmora, but different ones, but in Filmora, if you create proxy files, they're smaller files instead of using these really high-end HD files while you're editing. When you go to export, the Filmora or any software will defer back to the high-resolution files, but it's not using these really data-rich, intense files while you're editing. It's sort of like using smaller bookmarks of those and telling them, when you export with the HD, do these things to these clips. So I set it a lot of times down to the lowest setting, which is anything above 720p, and that'll keep it super smooth for you. Make sure you clean out your render files and proxy files, frequently, because they can actually take up a lot of space. Another thing you can do here is underneath the preview window here, see this little drop down? This will tell you what the resolution of your playback is. It defaults to half, so it's half resolution. That's why sometimes things will look a little fuzzy up here for you, but if you go to full, you'll get a full screen resolution. You can go down to a quarter, and it still looks pretty good. So if it's a lower resolution playback, see how it's a little more grainy up there? You can pick one that's a little bit better. That way, half is pretty good, but it looks pretty clean. And it won't have to fight by also trying to give you a really high resolution playback just for your editing. That can be tricky if you're doing things like high-end effects, but if you're doing things like where your cuts are, you're just trying to find quickly where your cuts are going to go, that works out perfectly. Also, the render button here, as you can see in this particular file, let me go full screen. See that red line right there? That tells me that this portion where I've added like the dissolve and things, I can render. So this little button right here, click on that, it'll quickly render your project where it can be rendered, and that's where that green line is there. It's that red line turned to green, and that'll help it play a little more smoothly so that it doesn't get hung up on you. That one actually hung up a little bit on me, but I've got about 100 things running on my computer right now. Might be time for some tweaks here. Yeah, so nice and simple. Let's see. Can a beauty skin filter help? Let me read that slowly. Can beauty skin filter help when video lighting wasn't the best, or should you use overall color correction instead, or both? Both. There is a beauty skin thing I showed recently that was, I think it's in the, I can't remember, it's in the effects, that actually will soften if you're like an old kind of harsh, wrinkled, too aggressive. The beauty skin, I think it's in the effects. I'll have to check. Yeah, beauty skin. So if you were someone, let me take this out of here, someone old like me, let me go to a sample video. Let me import something. Let me import a media file and let me try, I don't know, let me see if I can find something here. Okay, let me see. Hold on one second. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to use here. Let me try this one. I'm going to do this one right here. A piece of video clip here. Here is just me doing something. Let me find out what. Yeah, whatever. So, oh, it's flipped. I got to rotate it. Give me 1 second. Let me left click on that. Let me go up to transform. Can I flip this up? I don't think it'll only let me rotate it. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. There we go. Let me shrink this down. It's this was done in 16 by 9. It was something vertical I did. So let me take this down. And let me change the project setting on this to 9 by 16 as well, so it fits the project. Right. This is vertical video. So if you're doing like a TikTok or an Instagram, you can change your project settings. See, now we've got a 9 by 16 instead of 16 by 9. So let me snap that into the corner. That's snapped. Let's stretch that out. Let me see. Not the most perfectly lit. Let me see. I should be in here somewhere. Is this, maybe it's just a test footage? Yeah, I'm in there. There I am. Boy, that's dark. Let's do this. There's my face. Let's left click on that. I'm going to go to color. Here's one of those things. This isn't very well lit, this particular one. So here's a perfect example of how to correct some of this. Let's go to the color tab. The first thing you can do is, I like to use the advanced settings. I think they work the best. So if you open up the advanced color correction and hit the adjust button, I'm going to start somewhere in the middle where I can see myself a little better. Right there. Let's start with the lighting. Scroll down to the light tab, and what you can do is, I'm going to open up the whites a bit. Let me bring up even the shadows are a little tough in there. The highlights I might need just a little bit, and then the overall blacks, just a touch. So it's bringing up the whites and the shadows a bit to lighten that up a bit. That's better, and you can do a before and after really quick. Let me do a side by side. Let me do a real, yeah, there we go. Yeah, it looks a little better. Let me hit OK. And that lightened it up. So that was one of the things you can do, is lighten it up using the advanced color corrections. The beauty skin that you were asking about, let's go to effects. It sort of just softens it. It just sort of takes some of the harsh edge if you're, it's just not, if it's, if you're old like me, you're really close up, you got some wrinkles. You can, once you apply that, if you go up to the video tab, scroll down to the video effects, you'll now see that the beauty skin was added as an effect. Use the dropper to go over and grab your skin color. Let me see, right about there. There's your skin color. So that's the color it's going to work off of. And you can bring up the radius a bit. You can bring up the tolerance a bit. Let's go full screen. And all it does is, see, it gives me kind of a softer, it just softens out, sort of takes some of the wrinkles out a bit. I guess I've never really used stuff like that. For me, it's more about sometimes you're film something that looks a little harsh, or you look a little like you can see every bag under your eye. It can help take some of those things out and make it a little easier to use. But I use a little bit of both right there. Beauty skin, but I use a lot color correction. I think is usually the best way to do that, is get in and color correct what you've got going on. Let me see. Jessica Compton asks, "Ever had a problem with Filmora not playing your audio?" Spec talking audio. Let's see. I'll be editing and pause to do an effect, and when I unpause, my audio quits. Have to exit and come back in. Yeah, there have been times, Jessica, where Filmora does glitch on me. Not frequently. It has more to do with if I've got things updated and I've got them running properly. Typically, what you'll find is that's a system error. Error. Pardon my. There's my New England accent coming through. System error, where you've got something happening and it'll basically like stop because your system's getting overwhelmed. And once your system is running properly, it catches up. Then it runs well again. So that's the real trick to it. So you want to make sure that your system is up to spec, that you don't have a ton of things running. As I said earlier, like the preferences that we were talking about, make sure you set it in a way that you're not putting too much drain on your system. And you'll usually find that it will run a little bit, smoother if you do that. So that's where I would probably lean first. Seems to be a browser issue I'm having. I'm getting StreamYard's telling me my browser is not holding on to not being able to access my camera and mic. So I think the Windows update is what's giving me issues. I'm sorry about that. I'll solve it for next time and hopefully overcome this problem. But yeah, I think Beanie had it. Windows updates sometimes they get weird. So the browser's telling me it keeps losing sync with my not my system and not my internet. It's the browser itself. So may need to do a little tweaking. Where was I? I'll be here for a second. Let me take some of these questions. From Farmer X. Farmer, I had to read that with the up and down letters. Farmer X asks, hey, Daniel, is there a way to track multiple things in a single scene? Yeah, absolutely there is. I've showed it on my community tab, but I'm glad you asked that because I'll show you right here. Let me share my screen over here quickly. Let me find this again. This one and that one. So the trick to this, Farmer X, is that you want to double your tracks. Okay, so let me do it this way. Let me see if I can show you. If I think I missed a super chat in here. Hold on a second. I had a super chat from Blaine. I'm sorry. Some of this is because this thing's glitching on me. I'm missing some of them. There it is. Blaine asked, hey, Daniel, what are the benefits of using an XLR mic over a USB mic for audio recording videos? The benefit of using an XLR mic is that you can put it through what they call a mic preamp. I use outboard preamps. If you look in behind me on the right there, all of those funny colors over there, those are all different mic preamps that are sort of, think about like when you plug a guitar into an amplifier. Different amplifiers will give you different tone. And if you use an XLR mic, you can go through a mic preamp and get a really good, analog sound. A lot of these are tube preamps that I use, so I can warm up my mic sound. So that can do that in XLR. USB is a little trickier, but USB you can plug directly into your system, so you don't need any mic pre's. You pop it in and it's ready to go. So if you want convenience, USBs are excellent. If you want a little more control and you want to be able to dial in some of the subtle tones, the XLR I find to be my preference. They're also for live applications. Of course, that just froze up on me again. For live applications, I find that the XLR is standard. So that's why most of the time people will use XLR. My previous question, though, was, let me find this one. Let me see if I can find this other question was, asking me how to do track multiple things. Okay, so what you want to do, let me open this up. Is go to your media tab. Let me just grab a sample video here. Let me see. So there's, let's say it's what's this guy moving? Here, this guy's moving, right? Let me bring that footage down into the timeline. All you want to do is, let's say we have a text track. I'm going to track something. So I'm going to start with, let me just put a piece of text in here. And I'll put a title track down here. And we'll change it from your title here to, let's give this guy a name. Let's call him Bill. There's Bill. That's my pal Bill. All right. So we say, now we have something that can be tracked to Bill. Let me left click on this piece of footage down here. And in the upper left, you'll see this motion tracking. Let's open that up, click that. And we're going to motion track, not Bill, move the Bill name. I want to click this. I'm going to put it right on like Bill's face. So it'll track Bill's face. Once you've created the thing that you want to track, I'm going to use his face. Click on start tracking, and that will track Bill's face as he kind of goes, until it goes out of screen. You can see once he left screen, it had a little issue. All right, so he's all tracked, right? Till he left screen, right about there. So I'm going to cut this here because the end isn't going to track. All right, so there's Bill. Now, when I double left click here and I look back up in the motion tracking, now here's what you tell it below that spot. Well, what do you want to track to that thing that you just said his face, follow his face. Now, what do you want to follow his face? And it shows you what you've got. Either you can import something. You can add a mosaic if you wanted to blur his face. Or we have the title that's in our project. Let's do the default title and say, all right, let's track the title. And I would like the title to be, let's go to this side. Now what it should do is the title will, goes off screen though. Let's not do that. Let's keep it in screen. Let's put it someplace. Let's go under Bill. How about like here? Let's see if that works. There we go. So now that's following Bill, right? Now, if you wanted to track, let me just crop. I don't need this thing right here. Let me get rid of this extra. Now, if you wanted to track more than one thing, maybe you've had two people. You could do two people. I'm just going to duplicate this same footage, right? So let me copy that. Let me go to this track up here, and let me just paste it in here, if I can get paste to work. Just make sure it's stacked right on top of the original. So now all I've got here is two identical tracks, right? Just stacked on top of each other. And because they're identical, it doesn't matter that this one on top is blocking the one on the bottom because they're identical. I'm just putting two there, so it gives me another identical track to track another thing. Well, maybe I wanted to track Bill's watch. All right, so let's do this top track. Let me see. Where's the first? Which one doesn't have motion? Oh, this already has motion tracking. So let's retrack. Let me turn this off. Yes, I don't want the same motion tracking on the top one. Let's turn it on again and let's retrack. And this time I want to track Bill's watch. So there's Bill's watch. I don't know how long they'll stay in frame, but let's give it a shot. Right. Whoops. Hold on a sec. Let's start tracking. Kind of lost it. Maybe let's pick something else. How about we track Bill's ear? Let's track his ear. All right. Yeah, we're tracking his ear. Okay, so that was his ear, right? So now you can add another element. Now we have two different tracks. So this text here is tracking the bottom track. But now we have the second track, so we can add another element. Let's say title. And let's add another title. Let me find default. And I'm going to add another title, and I'll put it up above. So now I have another track right here, right? Let me get rid of the extra. I want it all to be the same length. And this second one is this, and let's change that to be Bill's Bill's ear. That's Bill's ear, everybody. And let's shrink that down a little bit. Bill's ear, and let's put Bill's ear like right up here. So ridiculous. And then here, I'll click the second track up above. It'll ask me what to track on that one. And it should give me the second. Let me see. It's this one, right? Let me see if it gives me the right title. Let me lock this one. Well, it should be able to track. I should see both of them if I've done this right. Track a default title. The other one's already being tracked, so it should give me this one now. And then when I do this, okay, see, so Bill, this one's tracking his face, and this Bill's ear is tracking a different portion of the video frame, his ear. So now two things are being tracked within the same. And all I did was I just duplicated the track, right? So if you stack the exact same track on top of itself and they're both playing, yes, the one on top is always blocking the bottom one, but you're just putting them there so that you can have the exact same track playing at the exact same time and adding extra motion tracking to the other tracks. Does that make sense? I'm stumbling with my words today. Let's see. We've got another super chat here. Ask Your Computer Guy says, hey, please simplify taking a 16:9 video and exporting just 9:16 section for a short with no distortion. It always ends up being 9:16 inside of a 16:9. No, it doesn't. It may for you. Let me show you how to do that. What you're asking is, well, if I've got a 16:9 piece of footage, how do and I just want to crop it down and use a piece of it for a short, how do I do that? All right, let me show you. Let's import some media. There's a couple steps here. I'm going to import a media file. Let me find something where I was 9:16. Let's see. Oh, I know. I did a Superman thing recently. Superman Takeoff. Let me see. Where was that? Here was the Can I Fly Like Superman? Let me bring that in. Okay, here was the video. No, I don't need it at 4K right now. Let me get rid of these extra tracks. I have too many tracks. I'm going to let me pull that out of the way. I'm going to click on the track manager, and I'm going to delete empty tracks. Boom. Now it just keeps me with my basic tracks. So here's a piece of footage, right? And there I am. Okay, now this is a 9:16 piece of footage, but also if you go in the upper left under the file menu, scroll down, my friend, Ask Your Computer Guy, and click on project settings, and you'll see that the project is also 16:9. So if we want to do a 9:16 project, we will first need to change the project settings to 9:16. Okay, so there's 9:16. Okay, but when it did that, it tried to put the 16:9 inside of a 9:16. it'll do vice versa because that's my size footage. So now what I need to do is left click on my footage and just stretch it out. Just stretch it out so that it fits the whole screen, right? So here we go. I'm going to stretch this out. There we go. That's a little better. And let me get in the middle, something like that. So now it's tough sometimes because if you crop way in or do something, you have to think about that when you're creating your crop, because I always tell people, if you're going to do a project in 9:16, film it in 9:16. I actually have two cameras in front of me. One's set at 16:9 and the other one's flipped up at 9:16. So I can film things both ways and then decide how I want to use. I can have one for YouTube. I can have one for shorts. I can have one for TikTok. So think about it when you film is the easiest way, because when you get that crop, you can lose a lot of information, but that's how you do it. So then if you did this, right, and you had this section, and this is the one where I took off, right? I flew up, boom, and there goes Daniel. Okay. So there was that. And then if all you'd have to do is export this, and let's do a 9:16 crop. That sounds good, right? 9:16 crop. And let's put that right on my desktop really quickly. Select folder. Whatever you make sure your project settings are also set for where you want it to be. The resolution is custom. It is. It's a custom resolution, but it should be 9:16. And if everything's set the same way, you're using the same. This is, see how it says 1080 by 1920. That tells you instead of 1920 by 1080, it says 1080 by 1920. That tells you it's a 9:16 instead of 16:9. I don't need it to be 100,000. Let's quickly send this out at 30,000 kbps, right? I say okay, and I export this, and what you're going to get now is it's going to export at a true 9:16, okay? And it's not cropped or ruined or anything like that. Let me find the target on this. And it should be right on my desktop. So if I go here, here's my, see down in this left, you can actually see it's cropped. It's a correct crop at 9:16. And if I play it, it's a 9:16, right? So you're seeing black on the left and right. That's only because the player is a 16:9 player, but that's the actual footage. So now it's actually cropped properly. So that's how you do it. You just got to make sure that you have your project settings and your footage correctly set up for the aspect ratio that you plan on exporting as, okay? Let me see what else we got going on. Zvirachi says, so cool to see you live. You help me out so much. Thanks for your vids. Fam, keep up the good work. Hey, I appreciate that. That's why I do this. I really try to take some time live to answer some of these questions that are harder to do in comments section. So I'm happy to be here to do that. So I appreciate the kind words, my friend. Is that Paul Peck in here? Mr. Paul Peck, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Peck in the house. How you doing, pal? Let me see some of the questions. Hi, Daniel. I was wondering, can I make a 3D object in Filmora? No, unfortunately, Filmora 10, you can't. You can't rotate anything on the X or Y axis, and you can't create 3D. You want to look at either Blender or Panzoid.com is a good one for making like 3D text. So that's how you'd have to do it. Or, that's just, Filmora's not built to do any kind of 3D stuff, unfortunately. At least not now. You never know what'll happen in the future. Let's see. Can Filmora edit in 100 HZ refresh rate? Okay, so you're talking monitor rate, which is two different things, but you did put in there 100 FPS. It can handle 100 FPS. It can't export at 100 frames per second. And which is funny because a lot of people ask me, if you're a YouTube content creator, guess what? YouTube's highest frame rate is 60 frames per second. They don't play anything on YouTube higher than 60 frames per second. So it doesn't really matter. That's why most of the software is built this way. You can't, even though you can film at whatever frame rate you want when you're editing, once it's put onto YouTube and uploaded, 60 frames per second is your maximum. So you've never seen anything higher than 60 frames per second on YouTube. So if you need that for like customers, if you're doing customer work, and you need something that can play at 120 frames per second, then you'll probably want to use a different software than Filmora 10. Those 60 frames per second is a lot for playback. Most people get that wrong. They're gamers. Like gamers think, oh, I need my video to be 100 frames per second, 200 frames per second, 240 frames per second. And it's just not the case. You're not watching 240 frames per second on YouTube. So no, unfortunately not, but it's not something you should worry about. Let's see. What do we got going on? Hey, how do you make a swirly face effect in Filmora? Hey, I actually did this on one of my videos. I called it the PewDiePie effect, I believe. Hold on a second. Let me find this. I did it. Let me bring this over here. I did it here. Let me open up. Let's see. PewDiePie effect. PewDiePie. Yeah, effect. The remember how you used to always do that? And it was just taking a swirl transition. Find this video and do it. There it is. There's the swirl. And all it is it's adding a swirl transition over a lengthy period of time. So that video's there. That'll explain it perfectly for you. So watch that video. And it'll explain exactly how to do it. You can't limit it to just your face. You have to. It does the whole screen, but it creates a similar effect. Let's see. Shrinking Sharon. Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, Shrinking Sharon. Good to see you. Let me see. I'm trying to. Let me see. Who's Mohit? I want to buy a Mac, but I can't afford it. Yeah, I've been using the M1, the new M1s. Mohit. They're really good. When you save up for one of those, the price point is under $1,000 for, depending on how much storage it has. But the 16 gigabyte RAM M1 is very good. So if you're going to save up, I'm completely in favor of you going with a Mac. The Macs are great, and they run DaVinci Resolve natively, which is fantastic. Sometimes when filming a long form 69, I don't know which one what that was answering, so I missed part of that. But I hope that answered the question you're asking. Hi, Daniel. I was wondering, can I make a... Nope, already answered that one. Working my way through. Let's see. You can get there's one. Mike jumping in. You can get a 2019 Mac for cheap as their old tech, but probably more reliable than what you have now. Yeah, because of the updates to the M1, they used to use, Macs used to use Intel processors. So you can get some of the older Mac minis and stuff that are really affordable. They're super affordable. Though, I got to be honest with you, the new M1s, because the technology they're building in-house, the prices came way down. So you can get an M1 starting at, I think, $700 US. The M1, an 8 gigabytes of RAM and not a huge amount of inboard storage. But you can always use external storage, which is what I do with most of them. Definitely worth looking into. Hey, Daniel, can you tell me how to do the fisheye effect without borders? You can't right now, not in Filmora. I could show you with a different software, but unfortunately, you're absolutely right. The fisheye effect in Filmora has a border to it. It's just how it is. Someday they will hopefully upgrade that and give us the ability to distort without just using a fisheye lens effect. Because a lot of people will say to me, hey, Daniel, how do you do like the big head effect, right? And the way to do that big head effect is to be able to grab a certain portion of your video and just stretch and skew it. Currently, right now, you can't really do that in Filmora. If there's a hack I figure out at some point, I'll let you know. But currently, you can't. I wish I had a better answer. But sometimes the answer is you can't right now. Not in Filmora, anyway. Custom equalizer settings for audio. How can we apply for all the audio in the timeline? In one shot, unfortunately, you can't. But what you can do is, let me try this. Hold on. Let me go to audio. Let me find a song. Bring a song down. Here's a song. All right, so here's a piece of audio, right? But let's say it was cut. Let me cut it up a bunch of times. Let me shrink this down. Let's pretend these are all different audio layers, right? And maybe they're even on different tracks too, right? So you got like different audio going on, right? What you can do here is left click on whichever one you want to do. And if you go in and you create a custom EQ, okay, so let's say you went, okay, I want to roll off the low end. It's a little too boomy, and I want to brighten up the top end just a little bit because it's a little dark, and that's your custom EQ. If you click OK, what you can do is go to your next piece of footage, hit Customize, and then just go down to Custom, and it'll save that last custom setting. And you can do them like that. So you don't have to mimic. You do have to go back in to each piece, open it up, scroll down to custom, and it'll remember the last custom setting, and you can just apply it. You have to go through each one and do that. It's not, oh man, I've got this covered. I'm sorry. So you have to left click on that, hit customize, scroll down, hit custom. It'll show that custom, hit OK, and it'll apply it. So on these, this is how long it just took me to go through each one and apply that same custom EQ to 6 pieces, right? 1, 2, 3, 5 pieces. So it's not super fast. I wish you could just select. I wish you could do select, hold the shift key, and select a bunch of different, control key. But see how it stays grayed up here? You can't now customize. You can only customize one at a time. But that's how you do it. Set your custom to 1 first, then just go to the next one. Open up your EQ, scroll down to the custom setting, and it will remember the last custom setting you used, and then you can just hit OK, and it'll apply it to the other ones. All right. Let's see. What's this question? Hey, Daniel, which new features do you think Filmora will be rolling out in the next big update release? I don't know. There's so many things that people ask for that they don't tell me. I mean, when I was working with them we were doing sponsored content on the channel, they would give me a little hint ahead of time, but I wasn't even allowed to talk about it. If I knew, I couldn't tell you. But I will tell you this, they've been very good right inside of 10, adding new feature after new feature. I mean, Filmora 10 came out, and just recently with the latest updates, we've seen things like the audio effects, right? We now have echo, we have reverb. This stuff didn't exist when Filmora 10 came out. It was in one of the 10.5.3, I think it showed up, that these started showing up. With each new update within 10, they keep adding, they're working it out, and they're adding some cool stuff. So I will tell you this, if you go to the help tab and you go down and you click on new feature request, it'll take you to the website and you can request things, and they use that input a lot. So if you go in or you have other people, if you have something you really want to see and you know a lot of other people want the same feature, get yourselves together and go, hey guys, let's all go to the new feature request and ask for whatever that is. Some people want different fonts. I know a lot of people in India wish that the Hindi fonts and the Urdu fonts were available in Filmora. Currently they aren't. So if you use the new feature request and ask for things like that, I will tell you this though, Chris, Filmora was never designed to be a super high functioning software. It's never going to be Adobe Premiere Pro or anything like that. That's why it's still affordable, and it's fast, and it's ease of use. So you're not, they do all these perspective text, they do that in Filmora Pro. That's why they made Pro for people who need more than Filmora 10 will ever do. So what I would tell you is, if you're waiting for Filmora 10 to compete on a level with the bigger guns, you probably won't see that happen. And not for any other reason than it just was never designed to be that. All right. Let's see. Please share a tutorial regarding replacing a moving object. I don't know what that means. Do you mean if I was running in a video and you want to remove me? Very difficult. That would be, you have to understand what you're asking. You're asking to rotoscope something out and you would need to replace it with something else. Explain that question a little bit better. Give me an example of what you get. Don't just say replacing a moving object. Give me a specific example. AHR. Maybe you just said yes, so that's maybe what you meant. Yeah, you'd have to rotoscope. You can't rotoscope in Filmora 10. You can rotoscope in DaVinci Resolve. It's really hard. It's literally like tracing around a subject and then deleting him, and then now you have a hole in your footage and you have to put something else in or overlay. Filmora 10 doesn't have rotoscoping features, so you can't right now do that. Let's see. Is there a shortcut to color correct multiple clips at the same settings rather than saving a custom and correcting each clip separately? Yes, great question. Great question, Cooper Music Page. Good to see you, pal. Let me do this. Let me get rid of some of this. Get rid of all this junk down here. What you can do is this. Let's grab a piece of sample video. Okay, so here's I wish they had more than just these bike dudes. Better sample videos. So here's these dudes. Let's bring them down. Okay. Let's bring down a few. Let's bring down a couple different clips, right? Let's bring that one. Let's bring this different one here. I don't know how many of these. They're all different ones, right? Let's go to the first one though. And let's say we go in, like you said, left click on the first clip. Let me stretch this out a bit. Let's click on the first clip. and then we're going to go up to color, and we'll go to advanced. And let's say we do this like, well, we spend time doing this advanced color correction, right? Like we went in and we looked at the color, and we brought up the brightness and the contrast and the saturation. And then we went into the actual color pans of this and went, whoops, sorry, the HSL. Let's go to the HSL. And let's say the blues here, we kind of popped some of the blues, and he's got yellow in his helmet. We wanted that to pop specifically, and things like that. Maybe you did like a light setting, right? You went, okay, well, let me bring the whites back. Bring the shadows up a touch. Let's bring some of the highlights up, but let's pull some of the blacks down. All right, so maybe this was your color setting. Not that it's great, but that's what you did, all right? Now, you were asking if you save it as a preset, you could then go into other footage and apply that preset, right? But if you just hit OK, you've now applied a color effect to this first piece of footage. What you can do on this, let me pull your comment out of there. What you can do, Cooper Music Page, is right-click on that piece of footage in your timeline, okay? And then go right here. It says Copy Effect. That's what you've applied to that footage. Now you can go and you can select these other ones. I'm going to left-click. I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard, and I'm going to select these other ones. That will allow me to select multiple pieces. I'm then going to right-click somewhere in them, and I'm going to put Paste Effect. And what happens there is if I opened up the advanced color correction on this, you will see if I scroll down to things like the light, you will see all those same things that I did to the first clip are now applied, not only this clip, but every other clip after it. So it's just apply it, right click, copy effect, select the other ones, paste effect. The only thing I would tell you, Cooper Music Page, is do that while you're doing your color correction, because what that will do is if you add like things like pan and zoom, they've changed it a few times, and it's potentially could do things like also copy your pan and zoom. So do the color correction first, get that all done. Then you can do whatever afterwards. Savvy Turtle, hey, thanks for the super sticker, my friend. I really appreciate that. Good to see you. Very nice of you. Hope you're doing well, man. Let's see what else we got in here. Heidi Costume Co. Where are you? I just saw you. Oh, yeah, there you are. Doing well. Hope you're having a good day too there, Heidi. Let me see what's going on right here. Sir, I'm a beginner anime AMV creator on YT. Could you give any tips for me? That's such a broad question. I would say learn the basics of editing. And I say this to everybody, learn all the basics of editing first. Get all of your things like being able to learn your cuts, using your color correction, using transitions, because all of these things are applicable to every type of channel out there. It's not like, oh, you have to do something different than other people do. So you just want to pay attention to how to learn the basics. Finally made it. I'm glad you're here. So learn the basics and apply them. That is the biggest thing that you can do is learn the basics of editing. Then you can edit anything. If you can get the basics down, then you can apply it to anything. You mentioned, let me see, did I miss one? Hold on a second. Did I miss a super chat? Hold on one second. Let me go back here. Oh, I'm sorry. Right there, Chris gave me a super chat. The £5, €5, pounds. Chris, thank you very much for that super chat, my friend. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. That does mean a lot to me. And really, it means a lot when someone helps support the things we do here. So thank you very much. So yeah, learn those basics and apply them. Once you learn the basics, you can do anything. You can do anything. It's not a matter of just learning one thing. It's working to become a better editor. And then no matter what you're faced with, you'll be able to have the skills to handle it. It's like learning to build, right? If you're a carpenter, it's not like once you learn all the carpentry skills, it doesn't matter if you're building a shed, a house, a second story, you know how to frame, you know how to work with wood. And then it doesn't matter what you build, you have the skills to make it happen. So AMV or otherwise, just lay on it. Do you think the new feature of, I think, AI Portrait is better than buying a green screen? No, I don't. I showed that in my last live stream where you can remove the background. It kind of works. It's just not great. It's just a simple fix. And no software does that really well. Here, let me pull you out. And I think it was here. Let me see if I can find it. Where was that? If I click here and I go to video, Where is it again? I can't remember where it is. Is it in the video tabs or is it in the effects tabs? Here, I think it's AI portrait, right? So it's supposed to be able to remove the background. So you pull it down, and on very simple shot, I can try it. Let me try it. On a simple shot, see what it does. It kind of, but you see all the glitchy lines around him. I mean, you can dial it in a bit, but it's made for all those people who don't want to learn how to do this. That's all it is. Everyone kept asking, like, how do I remove the background with a single click? It's like, well, that's not what video editing is about. It'll do it. See, it kind of does it. So it removed the background of this dude. And if I turn it off, the background comes back. But there's other things like this guy's in here, so he's showing up a bit. Is it better than learning how to properly rotoscope? No, it's better to get a software that can rotoscope and learn that technique. And then you can really dial in a correct rotoscope and crop out the background. Question here. Can I purchase any pack rather than subscribing to Filmstock? No, Filmstock is a subscription-based service that they have, much like Adobe Premiere Pro. You can't buy Adobe Premiere Pro. You can't buy Adobe After Effects. I don't even think you can buy any Adobe product. You can't buy Photoshop. You pay every month or by the year to have it, and when you stop paying, it goes away. And that's how they set up Filmstocks, is you buy a subscription and then you get everything on Filmstocks. Though they do have free ones. I use a lot of the free ones there, like the Halloween sounds effects is really fantastic. That's a great one. So they have free packs you can download. You don't need a subscription for that. But anything else, as long as you're subscribed, you can use them. The minute your subscription isn't paid, you can't use them, even if you've downloaded them before. They kind of disappear. It'll ask you, you have to be signed in. So that's where you want to make sure that you've got your subscription. But it's not very expensive. It's like, whatever it is. Like, I think the basic plan is like $7 or $10 a month. Daniel, can you please explain how to use Motion Tracker and examples where to apply it? I did. Watch the replay here. I not only showed how to use motion tracking, but I actually did double motion tracking and showed you exactly an example of where you would use it. Hey, I'm really used to Filmora, but I've been realizing its limitations. So I tried out other softwares like After Effects, but I find it really hard. Any tips to switching to more professional software? That's you said a mouthful right there that I talk about a lot. Is just that is if people go like, oh, I want my software to do more, which I usually go, no, you don't. You say you do, but you don't, because the software can do, it's not about the software, it's about your skills. I can do a ton with Filmora. I don't rely on the software to do the tricks for me. I learn how to edit, and then I don't need a super heavy software because I can get Filmora to do what I need it to do. But I understand there are times if you've learned every single editing skill, if you're a master editor, I'm not a master editor, but if you've been editing for 15 years and you can edit anything, if you can do, oh yeah, I could absolutely make the next Star Wars movie, or I could, there's nothing I can't edit, and you find Filmora limiting, absolutely go to a different software that has more features. And what comes with that is it's much harder to learn it. Steep learning curve. It's going to cost more money. You're going to need a better computer to run it, and there's nothing push button like here in Filmora. If you want to add something, you want to transition, you click on transitions, and there's all these. You bring them down and drop them in your timeline, and there you go. But what happens is that doesn't happen in most higher end softwares like Adobe. You just have to spend the time. It's a skill you got to learn. You got to learn how to do it. That's the real trick, is you got to put the time in, and that can be really tricky. Daniel, is there any benefits to recording in 21:9 for YouTube? On YouTube, no. It's just if you like that cinematic look. The only benefit that if you do 2:1, which isn't a common aspect ratio, 2:1. Let me go to project settings. If you set your project setting to 2:1. Which, let me see if it offers. It doesn't even offer 2:1. You'd have to do a custom one where you could do, all right, let's say you want to do a 2:1. 1080 twice would be 2160, right? So you could do 2160. Is that correct? Yeah. 21. I think so. 2160. I've now set the project to 2:1. That means it's twice as wide as it is tall. And the benefit of that, let me turn off this. Let me go. Let me click on this and let's turn off this thing. The benefit, see, there's now black left and right. The benefit of a 2:1, if I stretch this out, is that a lot of guys like it, or a lot of creators like it, because on your phone, 2:1 looks a little more cinematic. It'll have a little black bar up and down. It fills the screen better. If on a 16:9, if you watch on a big screen, you have a little bit of that black bar top and bottom. But on your camera, on your mobile device, if you click, how you can double click on your screen, it fills the screen and doesn't crop a lot, because a lot of the full screen mobile devices are not 16:9, they're 2:1. So you're always seeing a little black bar left and right. So 2:1 is kind of a cool way you may want to check out. Though I'll warn you this, if you do a 21:9 video and upload it to YouTube, you cannot put end screens on it. 21:9 footage on YouTube does not support end screens. And I love end screens, so I try not to do 21:9 if I'm putting it on YouTube, because it limits the amount of features you can add just based on the layout of how things work. So if you're like using end screens, and I do, then I would probably definitely stick with like 16:9. Savvy Turtle said, I wanted to tell you that I really dig your DB branding. Smart move and looks awesome. Also dig the vibes from your licks on your strings. Hey, thanks, Savvy Turtle. I appreciate that. Yeah, we work, and I think you might see it down in the lower right, the DB logo. I've been working on that. It's been a work in progress, which is a good time. I want to mention our good friends at Spreadshop, who sponsor this content. If you are not using Spreadshop, you should be. That's the easiest way to create all of the print on demand that you need. This is exactly what Savvy Turtle was talking about. This is my new logo. And this is my Spreadshop, where I can sell all of the custom t-shirts, hats, mugs, you name it. I can put all the products here that you could possibly imagine. I've got them all laid out here so you can buy all the different types of stuff with my branding on it. If you want to set up your own Spreadshop, I've got links down in the description where you can set up absolutely for free. Doesn't cost you a penny, and you can start selling merch, and it doesn't cost you a penny. You just make the profits. So definitely check out Spreadshop and set up a Spreadshop today. You can also, it also integrates with the YouTube merch shelf if you have that, but you can also put just links in your description and pin comment and start selling merch. And I also, if you like what's going on with the live stream here today, I'm using StreamYard, another co-sponsor of our streams. If you're interested in live streaming and having things to be able to pull up comments like I just did here and add different elements on screen, StreamYard, I've got links down in the description below where you can sign up today and start live streaming for free and get these kind of results. But hopefully your camera doesn't freeze up like mine in my browser. Let me get through this chat here. So again, thanks to our sponsors. Let's see, question here. Q. We just integrated Stream Deck with Streamlabs OBS, and all that we upload to OBS has audio. We'll only play that video, but no audio. Any idea how to remedy this? So you will only play the video in OBS. I'm not sure. I'm kind of sticking with editing today. That's an OBS question. Anytime that you upload your to OBS that has audio, so anything you're bringing into OBS doesn't have. I use Streamlabs OBS, and that's so do you. You should be able to hear your audio file. You may have it. Check your settings in the master mixer, because you may just have that muted. You have to make sure that the audio is supported in each track. But without actually sitting and seeing what you're actually doing, I wouldn't be able to help you with that at the moment. I apologize. This is why I use StreamYard. It's a lot easier. I just pull things up and go, and I don't have to worry about those issues usually. How has the Mac Mini helped you out recently from your latest video after purchase? I like it because it's really smooth. I've been using it on the side I might actually start streaming with it, because right now this new Windows update keeps freezing my camera in my browser. So I'm gonna have to check the browser settings and update the browser to make sure it's up to date. But the thing about the M1 is it runs on Mac architecture, and I might start live streaming with it because it's more stable sometimes than Windows. Windows can give you issues. So I like it in general. I wanted to integrate using Mac just because I think it's important for learning different types of operating systems, and PC is what I grew up with, but learning Mac allows me to answer questions on Mac. When someone has an issue, I can pull it up and give it a try and see if they have an issue, because the software is a little different on Mac. But I like Mac because they're affordable right now and they run Filmora fairly smoothly. Let me see, you got it backwards earlier. You mentioned something before in another video about 1080 edit and 4K export. Oh, bandwidth. I totally forgot the point. Yeah, you know what you can do here, my friend? This is what I know what you're asking. So here's what I'm talking about. Let's say that this happens to be a 1080 piece of footage, all right? And I go to export it. This is what you do. Wait a second, it's validating my resources. Oh, I didn't. Oh, that's why I've got this applied. It's going now. If you want to export with that, mister, you got to pay for it. I don't want to do that. Let me take that off. Okay, so now I'm going to export that. No, it's still applied. I have to delete it completely. That's what it is. Hold on. How do you get rid of it now? Let's see. Oh, I know. You got to do this and you have to hit X. Now it's gone, right? Should be all gone now. Okay. Now let's export. Come on. Stop asking me to validate. When you go to export, let's say this was whatever the setting was, right? Let's change the resolution to 4K. Let's go Ultra HD, 3840 by 2160. If I export there, and usually I go with a high bit rate, I usually do something like 100,000 kbps, really high bit rate to compensate compression. If you export at that, what happens though is that even though this footage is 1080, when I export it, let me do it quickly. Let me do an export so I can show you to desktop, and we'll just call this, test video, right? Something like that. Let's do that. So I'll show you what I mean. Test. So that's a test, and let's just quickly export this, and then cool. So let me go here. Let's. Where is that test footage? Should be right in here somewhere. Where'd you hide? There it is, right here. Let me click on this, and if you go to properties, what you'll see. Is this is going to read this as a it's not where's the previous version details, where is it? Right here in the details you'll see the frame width is 3840 and the frame height is 2160. So this piece of footage, when I send it up to YouTube, it's in 4K. I've increased it doesn't change the crop if you go to UHD. But it's telling it it's 4K, even though I only filmed it in 1080. So what it does is it's more pixels. YouTube is going to give me more bandwidth because when I put it up, it's going to tell me, oh, that's in 4K, and I can give you proof of that. Let me go here. Let me go to my channel, and let me go to a piece of let me see a video that I put up recently where I've done that. So this is probably one I've probably done. What does it say here? Yeah, if you look, see down at the bottom here, this is my latest video. I showed that how to fly. See, it says 4K right here. Let me use my tool. Hold on. Let me get the magnifying glass out. Right there. You see it says 4K? It thinks it's in 4K because I exported it in 4K, and it'll actually let me play it back in 4K. So it's giving me more bandwidth, more pixels, and my 1080p footage that was never filmed in 4K, YouTube now thinks is 4K, so it gets the 4K insignia, it'll look a little better, it gets more bandwidth, and that's a simple way to take your footage and make your 1080 look better than someone else's 1080 just by exporting in 4K. Really, really simple, really simple way to do that. It's just to get it to look a little better and get a little more crispness on YouTube. Hey, Daniel, you know what? I'm using AI Portrait on Mac and it doesn't ask for money. Really? When I use it, it didn't. It was when I went to export it. So yeah, I'll have to try that. That's a good tip. Sometimes they're a bit catching up. They don't always get it right. That's pretty funny. I'll have to try it and see if I can get away with it without paying. Not that I want to not pay. I'll pay, but I'll have to test it and see if that actually works. Let's see. Let me see where we go. Let's see. I forgot how to overlay a transparent PNG on top of my video. Yeah, you just have to add it into a track, Savvy. So let's say here's a track, right? Let me find a PNG image. Let me go to I should have something in here. Let's try. Yeah, let's see what I've done recently. There's got to be something I've had a PNG image for. Oh, come on, open up. What are you doing here? But there's got to be some. It says overlays. This, I think, is a PNG. Let me try. Let me see this one. Let me see what this one is. I think that's a PNG image. So if I bring it down and put it in a track above my footage, yeah. So as you can see, it's totally transparent. It's got the creator conversations on the lower right. If you just put it in a track above your main footage, then it will overlay it. And if I turned it off or on, right, then so that's it. That's what it is. As long as you have transparency in your image layer, you can lay it right over. So anything with transparency will allow the bottom footage to show through. So just remember in Filmora, as you stack tracks up, whatever is higher in the timeline, whatever's on top will be forward in your screen, right? So on top, literally like laid on top. I laid this on top of this bottom footage, so you're seeing creator conversations over the dude with the bike helmet. So there you go. Hey, Daniel, I love your content because your tutorial I started my YouTube channel. Love from India. That's awesome, dude. I'm so glad you started your own YouTube channel, and I'm glad this has been helpful. That's exactly why I do this. I really love Filmora. It helps me edit my videos. Hey, you're very welcome. Yeah, I love Filmora too. It's very easy to use. I'm a big fan of it. And it makes it nice and easy to edit easily. I like the simplicity of it. It's pretty simple to work through and get your video done. Your workflow can be very quick. How do I control the volume of multiple small audio at once? Oh, easy. That's really simple. Let me show you. So if you have a lot of, get them all, it's you can have track options here. So let's go to the audio. Let's say I've got like, I'm just going to bring one piece. Let's pretend this is all different clips. Okay. So I'm going to just use my keyboard shortcut to clip all this and cut it into pieces. So this is all right. So can you see there's all just different pieces here? Whether they're touching or not, it's just different pieces of audio. All right. So we've got all these different pieces of audio here, and you want to control that. Like you're like, oh, I need to bring all of these down. Well, the easiest way to do that is up here in your upper right. You see this looks like a bunch of little lines with a music note. Click on that. And that is your audio mixer. That's your master. And so this is audio track number 1. I've got a bunch of tracks here. So what I would do is up top, see it says video 1, video 2. Here's audio track 1. If I were playing that audio, let me play it here, right? And hear it. Whoop, just froze my screen. I got too many things going on. Hold on a second. Where is it? There you are. So if it's playing this audio, all you want to do is, why is it clipped? Hold on one second. One second. This is a story of my life today. Everything's just having attitude. Hold on one second. Every now and then, oh, never mind. There it is. No, it's giving me glitches today. Time to update stuff. So as I was saying, so there's that track, right? So it's playing that track. Audio 1, just bring your fader down. And what it'll do is you can control the level of that track here. Bring it way down. Let's say if, I need it really low. Oh, I need it really high. And that controls all of the audio on this entire track. So what you're doing is you're controlling the track level, and then you can do the individual ones if one piece is bug splat. See, I don't know. Maybe this new one has got some issues. We got bug splat going on today. I might be overwhelming some of the. I got so many things driving right now that I think the new browser update, my browser windows are having issues. And the good thing about Filmora, it gives you automatic backup. For those of you who don't know, like the thing I like about Filmora, you can set this is what you want your automatic update set to. So like, see how that just died on me? Filmora won't, it auto saves. You can set it for X amount of minutes. You can control and set how often you want it to auto save that project. So I didn't lose anything. So if you ever do have a bug splat, if you've got too many things going on, I've got live streaming and multiple windows and they're all connected. And sometimes I overwhelm. I have too many things running and you can shut things down because I don't have my system optimized to run this many things at once. So as I was saying, so right here, that was your audio. That was the audio thing when we were bringing in audio effects. Just control that with your mixer. And you can control the audio levels from like a different video tab too. So not just the audio tabs, anything that had audio attached, control the different levels and it'll turn everything up and down. And then individually you can left click on them and set the individual volumes right here. That'll set the track volume. Hope that answered the question. Hey, Jock Pop Laser, thank you for the $4.99 super sticker, my friend. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. I hope this stuff here has been helpful, and it's and even though with my glitches today, sometimes things break on me. I have those mornings. See, and you guys aren't the only ones who struggle. Hey, Daniel, I learned a lot from you. Can you show me how I can make a template with transitions predefined for fixed times? Template with transitions? You can't. I don't know if I understand your question, Geert. Like you want to create transitions and have them ready to be changed. That's not how they work. They come preset. There are some options in the preferences. I don't know what you mean by a template with transitions, predefined. You can do the preferences and you can do, no, it's not folders. It's under the you can do things like this. See right here? This says effect duration. So like if you added a transition or something, it presets to 5 seconds. You can change the amount of frames or seconds right here so that any of your transitions that you use will default to a different speed. The same with photo duration. Like if you're going to bring in photos and every image lasts 5 seconds, or maybe you're putting together like an animation sequence and you go, every time I bring in a image, I only want it to be 1 frame. So you can set that here in the editing. So every time you bring in let's say an image, right? Let's say we import, let me see if I can find a picture. I'll just bring in this same one, Creator Conversations. It'll bring that in. And if I bring it down, see what it just did there? 1 frame. It only occupies 1 frame in this project, which is good if you're adding like if you're doing a slideshow and you want them all to be a certain length, you can change the length of anything, including the transitions, how long you want. But that's how you would do the predefined ones, to change them from their default settings. But you can't do different ones. You can't say, I want to take all these transitions and have them exactly this length. And I don't know that you would. I never use a specified setting, right? I'm always changing the length of my transitions based on the project and what I want it to do. So that's where you'd want to handle it. If you want to change the defaults, that's how you do it. Do you know how to make animations on images so they move just a little bit? The animation tab is rather complex. On images so they move just a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. Let me show you right here. So if you wanted something to move just a little bit, let me try here. Let me delete some of this stuff. Let me get rid of that little, let me do that. Let me bring that little Creator Conversations thing that I have here. Let me stretch it out. So here's this overlay, right? And when you said you wanted it to move, really simple. Highlight that. See how I've got that selected? Go up to the animation tab right here. Hit customize and add a keyframe. That'll tell it start right where it is. Now, wherever it is at that point, that's what it's going to tell it to do. Now, if I wanted it to move a little bit, maybe I wanted it, halfway through, I wanted it to, like right here where the playhead is, double left click on that. I'm going to lock the main footage. And let's say I just wanted that to move just slightly. I wanted it to creep kind of over this way. What it would do, it would move slightly based upon that. That's all I did. I didn't even have to add the keyframe. I just put the playhead where I wanted. I moved that overlay or that image. And where I had the playhead, it said, okay, at this point, you want it to move to there. And then Filmora fills in the blank, right? So it'll slowly see it creeping. Telling me to lower my playback. How dare you? See how it's creeping across? Then you could stretch that out too. If you said, well, I didn't want it to stop. I wanted it to creep across the whole scene. You can just left click and drag the keyframe over, and now it'll just kind of creep along the bottom. So there's that little bit of motion. So that's really simple. Pretty straightforward way to handle that. Hey, listen, I've gone a little long here, and I'm dealing with some system issues today. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out today, and thank you for all the super chats. If you have any questions I didn't get to, make sure you leave them in the comments section below after in the replay, and I'll make sure I get back in and answer those. And we're going to be doing this every Sunday morning, so make sure you join in. I want to thank everyone who was here today. Thank all the moderators for their hard work. Thank you guys for your great questions, and thank you to our sponsors, StreamYard and Spreadshop, for being excellent sponsors and great companies. Make sure you click on the links below to check them both out, and I will see you guys soon.